Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Your Money, Your Life podcast. We are on episode 168 of the podcast. Thank you all. Thank you as always for listening. Make sure wherever you're listening or watching, subscribe, 5-star rate and review, comment, and post about the podcast. We appreciate you doing that every week. Of course, as we get into it every week, the first thing we talk about is the financial markets. That is always our first thing we touch on. And just in general, it's been more of a quiet week. There isn't much data coming out so far. We talked about the big stuff last week, which was the CPI numbers, the PPI numbers. That's the big thing. But now we are kicking into earnings season. So a couple of banks have announced earnings. Netflix came out with earnings. I think it was yesterday as well. So technology is up next for earnings seasons. And the big thing is watching how far earnings per share falls for pretty much for all companies, right? So the estimates are from a year ago that we're going to be down on a GAAP basis, on an earnings basis. And so that's the big thing that you're going to be watching. That's the big thing that's pretty much going to affect the markets. Every company's telling us and guiding that, they thought in 2023, revenue could be slower, earnings could be down. And now we're going to see the actual print for the first quarter of 2023 and get a sense on what companies are thinking. So that's the big major concern is how far will earnings fall? And is that going to affect the markets? Is it already priced in? But so far it's been muted. The markets were flat yesterday. They're a little bit down this morning, but nothing crazy on the earnings front so far. But it's going to be the big thing to watch over the next several weeks just to see where we land on earnings. That's the big thing, is where we land and how, and pretty much just where we land on earnings. That's going to be the big thing to look forward to in the coming weeks. In more news, in Netflix, we just talked about how they released their earnings yesterday. They came in a little bit lower on the subscriber number, 1.7 million. Estimates were north of 2 million. So that was disappointing for the market. They also guided a little bit less as well, saying that they think they'll have a little bit less subscriber growth in the back half. But they did have a strong content slate in the first quarter. Beef show is doing really well. Now they're saying they're going to continue to crack down on the password sharing among users. So they're going to crack down on the password sharing. They said it's working a little bit in the US. They're going to expand it to other countries. So that's a big thing to watch out for, is them expanding that initiative to crack down on password sharing. So something to watch going forward. And the content slate was really strong. I believe had a lot of good shows that showed up really well. More streaming news. I just saw this in passing, but there is a Hollywood writers strike. A Hollywood writers strike that's signaling a potential shift for streaming. It was a unanimous vote with 9K members of the Writers Guild. They approved a TV and movie writers strike if they don't get a new contract before May 1st. So studios, their employers, with their employers, record 80% of WGA members turned out to vote, signaling clear dissatisfaction among the teams creating your favorite shows. So they're beefing with the studios. All the writers beefing with the studios. They want better pay, better a lot of things, and they could go on strike, and that could affect a lot of the content in a couple of years, right? Because the stuff that they made that's going to come out in the next several months to a year has already been done, but it could affect the content coming out in a couple of years if they don't come to a resolution before May 1st. So that's going to be something to watch if you're a streamer, watcher of shows. And shifting gears, Gen Z and millennials are racking up a record number of debt as financial avoidance leads to retail therapy. Interesting term, financial avoidance. We already know that what's happening right now. There's a record debt high of 4.8 trillion in February as inflation-strapped Americans took out high-interest loans, maxed out credit cards, cashed out from 401ks. The IOU blues are especially bad for younger generations. Millennials' average credit card debt rose nearly 30% in March from a year ago. Again, this is a lot of spending, and it's also inflation that's hitting pockets. It's different time in 2021, of course. And so credit card debt for Gen Z soared 40% to an average 2.8 thousand. And they're saying that cheating hauls and Celsius habits weighed down balances. So you're seeing it everywhere. There's an over splurge, there's a splurge cycle, but there's also an inflationary period. And it seems to be affecting debt for a lot of people. And again, that's a tough situation for folks. It just means really that, when you have inflation and when you have splurging, cutting those things back. I mean, the splurging is going to be helpful for a lot of people potentially in these times. So something to look out for. The AI talk keeps going on. Now there's the talk of Google and Microsoft, and everyone is talking about just this AI race. And you're seeing like, well, a lot of what's doing in music. You're seeing the voices and things being replicated on songs, and it's kind of crazy, but still more to watch out for. And they're saying that Google is probably, again, I've been stand for that Google will win this race in the sense of they have the best data, the most data, the search data, all that stuff is going to be important because the AI is just really taking what it already is out there and processing it faster than anyone can process it. So Google has the most data. Um, and they're going to be able to use that to their advantage in this AI race. So, they're taking a slower approach. They're being more cautious. They're rolling out, different products. But they're taking a slower, more calculated approach in this AI powered race. And so we're going to see what they do. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do. I thought this was big news. The Oakland A's, for the baseball fans, the Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas. Does anybody know why everyone moves to Las Vegas? I know it's a betting and sports town, but I don't feel like it's a huge sports town in the sense of there's no one that really is anyone from Las Vegas? People actually move to Las Vegas. Who wants to stay in Las Vegas? I don't know. Been there once. It was okay. It wasn't that great. It was just all right. But a lot of sports teams move there. They're talking about moving. I don't think there's a basketball team there yet, right? So they're talking about LeBron potentially wants to buy a team and move it to Vegas. That is just, I guess it's a big hole. It's a big sports town. That makes sense. Are there really homers over there? Are there really real sports fans? I don't know. In unsobering news, Meta is cutting more roles again. This time it's technical roles, and this is their latest round of job cuts. It feels like software engineering, graphic programming, gameplay development. And so they've made a lot of cuts. And there was actually an interview with Elon Musk, and he said he went 80% of his folks in Twitter before he came either were left voluntarily or laid off. And so a lot of people had said, okay, you have AI and now you have companies that were a little bit over bloated. Can we just work with a few people and also with technology and be fine? So a lot of people are worried about the fact that data entry, lower skilled occupations could be at risk if companies feel like they're too bloated and they're not meeting their profit margins. Again, lower skilled occupations could be at risk, very much so at risk. And so that's a thing to think about if you're a career transitioning any of those things. Let's dive into the last bit. We had questions that are going to be interesting. We have questions to dive into, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So let's dive into our last bit, which is going to be our questions, as well as a last item that was on the news today. I think the biggest other item, Apple rolled out a store in India, making its first debut in India. Obviously, India is slated to be the most populous country in a short term, in a short matter of years. But Apple finally cut the ribbon on a new Apple store. And it was a big deal, an enormous brick and mortar space. And there's going to be another store in Delhi as well. So big news there on the Apple front. So questions of the day, ladies and gentlemen, questions of the day. There was a lot of them. We're doing rapid fire like we did last one. We're going to go with credit card debt again. A credit card question. Question of the day, $750 PlayStation 5 bundle on credit. If you make minimum payments, how long before the credit card bill is paid off? $750 PlayStation bundle. If you make minimum payments, if you make minimum payments, what is that? I don't even know. I'm minimum at 750. What is that? 10, 20 bucks? I don't even know. I think it would take something like 5 years. Oh, and I am right. 5 years, 10 months. Did we do this one already? Yeah, did we do this one? Minimum payments. You'll pay $525 in interest. The minimum payment would be 30 bucks. If you had $750 in credit card balance, interest rate of 24%. Minimum payment calculates 4% of the balance. Yeah, that's how it would be. Next question, folks. question of the day. Next question. How much does an artist make for every 1 million streams on Spotify? How much does an artist make for every 1 million streams on Spotify? The answer is around $4,370. So someone listens to your singles to you sing a song 1 million times, you make 4,000. People talk about the splits with these big DSPs a lot. Taylor Swift has battled with them. They've battled with them. But yeah, you just don't make much from streaming your music. It's the tours, it's the merch, it's the other ways, but it's always been a battle. This is an interesting question. What percentage of US taxpayers prepare their own taxes? I'm going to guess less than 50%, somewhere in the 40% range. Oh, 61%. 61% of people prepare their own taxes. There's so much software out there like TurboTax and all these different things. It makes it really, really easy. So actually it should have been higher. But that is that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening this week. We appreciate you as always for doing so. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk to you next week.